Okay, welcome to the Philadelphia Bible Institute spring classes. Today's classes are the Messiah was at 9:30, and now we're starting the Song of Solomon. I'm going to approach the Song of Solomon like I approach everything in the Bible from a literal point of view. Um, Marriage is an important thing to God, and so He gave us a whole book of the Bible about physical lovemaking. So this song is about it's written by Solomon, and it's about him marrying one of his wives. Um, so it's in the form of scenes from their life, their courtship and marriage, or snapshots, if you will. It's also like can be thought of in the form of a play with acts and scenes. So the hard thing is when you read it in the Bible, um, God didn't put dividers in there to say when one person is speaking and when another is speaking, because you can tell that from the context. So I've added the flags here to let you know who's speaking. Um, and once you have that, it's pretty easy to go from there and figure out what the scenes are. So we start off with Act One, the betrothal, and or the engagement. And the first thing that happens is Shulamith, which is the, the lady's name that Solomon marries in this song. Um, she starts off speaking, and this whole song is primarily from her point of view, which is very interesting. Since the Bible is very patriarchal, um, but the Bible gives a lot of recognition to women, and here's a book that's primarily written from a woman's point of view, and the woman's point of view is probably the most important point of view in the physical lovemaking, because if the woman is happy, the house is happy, right? So she starts off, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth," and that's just a general statement. It could be spoken to the daughters of Jerusalem, which is like the chorus in this song, um, and then to Solomon, and this is still just an introduction. "For your love is better than wine. Because of the fragrance of your good ointments, your name is ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love you. Draw me away." So the wine spoken of here is wine, not grape juice. I can't imagine her saying your love is better than grape juice. And if somebody would argue that in those days they mixed water with their wine, and so it wasn't as strong as today's wine, well then go ahead and mix water with your wine if you want to. But this is talking about real wine. So God doesn't have the same hangups that a lot of people have today in churches. So it's talking about his name here because the foundation of the physical relationship is a good relationship in the non-lovemaking realm. Uh, the person's character and is the foundation. So Solomon has a good name, and therefore the virgins, the daughters of Jerusalem, love him. Uh, Nowadays, it's the movie stars and the actresses that have the center of attention. Then it would be the king and the queen and the royal family and so forth. So she says, "Draw me away." It's a passionate song. Then the daughters of Jerusalem to Solomon also say, we will run after you. We know this is the daughter of Jerusalem speaking to Solomon because we is plural, but the you is masculine singular. So they're not saying this to Shulamith, they're saying it to Solomon. So scene 2 here, after the introduction, is Shulamith's arrival at the palace, throne room and banquet hall. So Shulamith says, the king has brought me into his chambers, into his palace. She's a country girl, we'll see later on, and we'll see how they met later on. But right now, this is the moment where she's been brought from the country to the city, to the palace, and she's going to stay there during the engagement period. It wouldn't be appropriate for someone who Solomon was engaged in to be still living at home in the country because of the potential dangers and so forth, because of enemies of the king, and also for propriety. So the daughters of Jerusalem say to Shulamith, we will be glad and rejoice in you, feminine singular. So they're talking to Shulamith here. And to Solomon, we will remember your love more than wine. So these are like the concubines and the queens that are speaking here in the palace. And then Shulamith says to Solomon, rightly do they love you. And to the daughters she says, I am dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not look upon me because I am dark, because the sun has tanned me. My mother's sons were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard I have not kept. So the first challenge, there's a couple challenges here as she enters the palace. Of course, one is that she's a country girl, and the other is that she's been working in the vineyards. And that's actually where Solomon and her met, as we'll see later. But she's dark, and that wasn't valued at that time and in that place. So she's making a plea for them to overlook her darkness, and for Solomon to overlook her darkness. She's apologizing for it. She says to Solomon, tell me, O you whom I love, where you feed your flock, where you make it rest at noon. For why should I be as one who veils herself or wanders by the flocks of your companions? So she wants his schedule. She wants to not be chasing him around and looking, improper. She wants time with him, but she knows he's going to be busy, so she wants to get that straight. The daughters of Jerusalem don't give her a good answer here. They say, if you do not know, O fairest among women, follow in the footsteps of the flock and feed your little goats beside the shepherd's tents. So they're not giving her an easy time here. But Solomon says, I've compared you, my love, to a filly among Pharaoh's chariots. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with chains of gold. So Solomon stands up for her in public, in front of all these queens and concubines and women of the court and visitors in the court. And because he does that, then they respond. Because he accepts her, then they accept her. They say then to Shulamith, we will make you, again feminine singular in the Hebrew, ornaments of gold with studs of silver. So she's been accepted into the court. I'm sure that's not the only challenge she'll have there, but the initial one is passed because of Solomon standing up for her. He's recognizing her anxiety, and he deals with it. He helps her. So then, now there's a banquet. While the king is at his table, Shulamith says, my spikenard, that is my perfume, sends forth its fragrance. And then these are her thoughts. A bundle of myrrh is my beloved to me that lies all night between my breasts. So she's wearing a bundle of myrrh on a chain between her breasts as perfume, and she's saying that's like Solomon to her. She's looking forward to the day when he will be in that position versus the bundle of myrrh on the chain. She says, "My beloved is to me a cluster of henna blooms in the vineyards of En-gedi." So henna is a flour that they make. This ink-like stuff that the women put on their hands and decorate on their arms and so forth in India today. And the vineyard En-gedi is here along the Dead Sea. It's all desert, and then you come to this beautiful oasis, and that's what Solomon is to her in her life. So scene 3, they've had the banquet. She's been looking forward to the day when they'll get married, and here in the scene 3, they go on a picnic out in the country. So Solomon says, "Behold, you are fair, my love. Behold, you are fair. You have dove's eyes." There's probably doves around them while they're eating. Shulamith says, "Behold, you are handsome, my beloved. Yes, pleasant. Also, our bed is green. The beams of our houses are cedar, and our rafters of fir." So there's probably fir trees around, and they're pretending, having fun together, playing, joking. Um, she says, "I'm the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valley." She compares herself to a humble flower of the valley. She feels loved and appreciated and beautiful with him, but she compares herself to a small little flower, a common flower. Solomon says, "Like a lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters." So he says, "You're not just the rose of Sharon. You are a lily among thorns in comparison to the other women." And so she responds in the same kind of compliment. She says, "Like an apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sun." So here he's talking about her beauty and her delightfulness to him. She's talking more about his provision and the apple tree providing for her. And then, "As I sat down in his shade with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste." So there is the protection, the provision, and the protection that he's providing. And she says, compared to the other men, he's like an apple tree among the trees of the woods that just have leaves and don't provide this kind of protection and provision. Scene 4 is another banquet. This one is not outside, it's inside. Shulamith says, "He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love." Again, she feels loved and cherished. She says to Solomon, "Sustain me with cakes of raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am lovesick." So they're eating together or nearby. And then she imagines the future. "His left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me." She's still looking forward to the marriage. And at this point, when she has this thought during this time of her engagement, she gives one of the several warnings in this book. And to the daughter, addressing the daughters of Jerusalem, the chorus in this play, she says, "I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, that do not stir up nor awaken love until it pleases." And what this means is, don't get the woman love woken up, excited. Don't get passion aroused, because that can lead to wrong decisions. It can lead to all kinds of problems. So says the right thing to do is just not awaken love, avoid the things that would awaken love until the time is right, until the marriage. So that was her coming to the palace in that first week or so there. But the marriage isn't until probably a year later or something like that. So a long engagement, a fairly significant engagement period. So Act Two, they're going through this engagement period, and it's not always easy. Shulamith says, "The voice of my beloved, behold, he comes, leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills." So he's been busy, but now he comes to take her out. Um, for it, spring is here, and they're going to go out in the countryside again. My beloved is like a gazelle or young stag. Behold, he stands behind our wall. He is looking through the windows, gazing through the lattice. My beloved spoke and said to me. So he's playing and coyly looking through the fence, through the gate. And Solomon says, "Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past. The rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of singing has come, and the voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land. The fig tree puts forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grapes give a good smell. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away." So now they've gone into the countryside. So he says, "O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the cliff, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely." Then there's the warning again, another warning, not the other one we'll see over and over. So they're around the vineyards, and the warning is, "Catch us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes." The idea meaning to be careful during this engagement period and watch out for small things that can uh, cause strife and come between them during this time. And Shulamith says, these are her thoughts: "My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feeds his flock among the lilies." So he's not a couch potato. He's not a redneck. He's not a beer drinking tough guy. He's got some class. He's got some um, tenderness to him. He appreciates beauty. He appreciates the beauty of the outdoors and her beauty. And he feeds his flock among the lilies. He doesn't just do his work, but he also enjoys the beauty in life. And her wish for the future, that since they're outside, and she was just talking about him being like a gazelle, coming up, bounding up to her um, apartment area in the palace to take her out for this trip. She talked about him being like a gazelle. Now she wishes for the future and for the physical lovemaking, that until the day breaks and the shadows flee away, turn my beloved. So all night long, be like a gazelle or a young stag upon the mountains of Bether. Bether is the word in Hebrew meaning separation. So I'll leave it to your imagination what the mountains of Bether are. Um, Maybe I won't leave it to your imagination. It's talking about, speaking of her breasts. So now we're still in the engagement period, but scene 2 is a separation dream. There's anxiety, the anxiety during this time. There's happiness, but there's also fear that something might not work out, something might go wrong before they get married. So she has this anxiety dream. Um, she says, "By night on my bed I sought the one I love. I sought him, but I did not find him. I will rise now," I said, "and go about the city, in the streets and in the squares, and I will seek the one I love. I sought him, but I did not find him. The watchmen who go about the city found me. I said, 'Have you seen the one I love?' Scarcely had I passed by them when I found the one I love. I held him, and I would not let him go until I had brought him into the house of my mother and into the chamber of her who conceived me. And like Isaac took Rebecca into his tent when he met her, and that's how they got married. She's looking forward to the. She has this dream where she's separated from him. She can't find him, but finally she does, and then she brings him in to the house or the tent of her mother, so that they can be together. And having this anxiety dream and this desire, strong desire, she talks about another warning to the women. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or by the does of the field, do not stir up or awaken love until it pleases. So they've had some hard times. They've had some good times during the engagement, but mostly it's a time of tension, waiting for the wedding, and finally the day of the wedding arrives. And that's Act 3 in the song that Solomon wrote. First of all, we see the wedding procession. And I have this listed as Shulamith here, but I think it's probably just the narrator at this point. Who is this coming out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all the merchants' fragrant powders? Behold, it is Solomon's couch. So this is the platform with the couch on it, on carried on poles on its shoulders. It's Solomon's couch with 60 valiant men around it, of the valiant of Israel. They all hold swords, being expert in war. Every man has his sword on his thigh because of fear in the night. Of the wood of Lebanon, Solomon the king made himself a palanquin, portable enclosed chair. He made its pillars of silver, its support of gold, its seat of purple, its interior paved with love by the daughters of Jerusalem. So the daughters of Jerusalem also helped to decorate and prepare this couch that's carried by the men. Go forth, O daughters of Zion, and see King Solomon with the crown with which his mother crowned him on the day of his wedding, the day of the gladness of his heart. That was the wedding procession. Now the wedding night, Solomon says to Shulamith, behold, you are fair, my love, behold, you are fair. You have dove's eyes behind your veil. And this book, one of the purposes of this book is to be a manual for physical lovemaking. So when he's speaking about parts of her body, he's not just speaking about parts of her body, but he's maybe kissing that area or caressing it or focusing on that area. Sometimes in the psalm, he might start at the head and work towards the feet, or vice versa. So here he's starting with her eyes, speaking about, and there's a lot of verbal interplay here. It's not just all physical. The emotional part of lovemaking is extremely important too. He says, your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Mount Gilead. So that today might not seem like a compliment to some ladies. Your hair is like a flock of goats. But picture this. So you're standing outside in Israel. You're looking up towards the mountain Gilead. And it's in the evening. And the breeze is soft and fragrant. And the sun is the light of the sun is soft and fading. And you look up the mountain, and the shepherds are coming down the mountain with their flocks, and they're wending their way down the slopes back and forth as they work their way down the mountain. And you need to have that whole image and the enjoyment of that moment to get the feeling of what he felt like when he saw her beautiful and hair with wavy hair. He says, your teeth are like a flock of shorn sheep. which have come up from the washing, every one of which bears twins, and none is barren among them. How fun to see a bunch of little sheep coming up, shaking the water off from the washing on a beautiful day there, and the fun of those sheep and her smile gives them the same kind of feeling. Your lips are like a strand of scarlet. Your mouth is lovely. So he's um, probably kissing her mouth by this time. Your temples behind your veil are like a piece of pomegranate, kissing her temples, uh, caressing her hair. Your neck is like a tower of David built for an armory, on which hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. So kissing her neck. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle, which feed among the lilies. So petting her breasts very gently. Until the day breaks, and later on he says he goes up to her breasts like grapes, like making wine. So, but at this point, he's just being very gentle here. Until the day breaks and the shadows flee away, I will go my way to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. So the mountains of Bether were her breasts, but the hill of frankincense is another part of her body that has a good smell to him, and it's a hill versus a mountain versus the mountains. He says, "You're all fair, my love." Now, at this point, he's waiting. He's waiting for her to be ready for him. So he's stalling. He's come up to the gate, but he's stalling now. "You are all fair, my love, and there's no spot in you. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse, with me from Lebanon. Look from the top of Amana, from the top of Senir and Hermon, from the lion's dens, from the mountains of the leopards." So here he wants her to forget about dangerous places and other things and have no fears and trust in him and to feel safe and relaxed because his thoughts are on her and her welfare. And he's still stalling here. He says, "You've ravished my heart, my sister, my spouse." He's giving her his thoughts. "You've ravished my heart with one look of your eyes, with one link of your necklace." And again, the necklace would be kissing her neck the way a necklace might lie. "How fair is your love, my sister, my spouse? How much better than wine is your love, and the scent of your perfumes than all spices. Your lips, O my spouse, drip as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under your tongue." So that's French kissing with the tongue under her tongue to get the taste of the honey and milk. "And the fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon." He's smelling her garments. He says, "A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse. A spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Your plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits, fragrant henna with spikenard and saffron." He's starting to get intense here. "Calamus and cinnamon with all trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes with all the chief spices. A fountain of gardens, a well of living waters." He's going on and on. "And streams from Lebanon, waiting here at the mound of frankincense." And finally, she's ready to welcome him. And these are the two verses in the very middle of this book. The book is a chiasm. So if you work your way out from the center in both directions, you have matching sets of scriptures, matching sets of verses. So here she says, so this is the most important part in the climax of their wedding night and the climax of this book, and the meaning of the book. She says, "Awake, O north wind, and come, O south, blow upon my garden. that its spices may flow out. Let my beloved come to his garden and eat its pleasant fruits. So they make love, and then Solomon says afterwards, I've come to my garden, my sister, my spouse. I've gathered my myrrh with my spice. I've eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I've drunk my wine with my milk. And it's still as part of the chiasm, God speaks for the only time in this book. He says, eat, O friends, drink, yes, drink deeply, O beloved ones, showing God's approval on physical lovemaking and the importance of it. And of course, having this whole book written by prophecy and put in the Bible and preserved, God shows the importance here of the physical relationship between man and wife. So, working our way out from the center of the book again, we had the section on the engagement period, the betrothal period. Now we've got the section on married life, and just like the betrothal period, there's some joys and there's some difficulties. So the first thing that happens in this long road of married life, this walk and not a run, is a fight and a make-up time. So Shulamith says, I sleep, but my heart is awake. It is the voice of my beloved. He knocks. So she's just dozing off, just gotten into bed and is starting to doze off. And Solomon unexpectedly shows up. He's got not sure how many wives and concubines by this time, but he ends up eventually with 1,000. So he's not always around for each of them. And one night he finishes work early and he says to himself, I'll go see Shulamith. I'm really miss Shulamith. And he shows up, but she's gotten in bed. He shows up and says, open for me, open the door, my sister, my love, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is covered with dew, my locks with the drops of the night. He's been walking to get to her there in her part of the palace. But she says, I've taken off my robe. How can I put it on again? I've washed my feet. How can I defile them? And he's a little bit perturbed that he hasn't seen her for a while, and now he shows up unexpectedly. And then he comes right when she's gotten in bed. But then she changes her mind and she gets up and she's happy to see him. My beloved put his hand by the latch of the door, and my heart yearned for him. I rose to open for my beloved. She's happy he's there. I rose to open for my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the lock. I opened for my beloved, but my beloved had turned away and was gone. So he didn't wait around for her to put the perfume on her hands and come to the door. When he heard her say that, when he heard her first answer that wasn't real welcoming, then he left. He also made a mistake, and instead of being patient and persistent, he felt like, well, I came all the way over here and got some time, and I thought we'd have a nice time together, and now you say, well, I've already gone to bed. You weren't happy to see me. So his feelings are hurt. Now he leaves. So when she gets to the door, he's gone. She says, my heart leaped up when he spoke. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. She's yelling down the hallway, both directions. She goes out looking for him. The watchmen who went around the city found me. They struck me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls took my veil away from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, that you tell him I am lovesick. I don't know if she actually went out into the streets and if the guards actually didn't recognize her as the queen because she was running out in her nightgown or something looking for him, or if this was just the way she felt. But in any case, she was unhappy because she couldn't find him. So the chorus at this point enters in and says, what is your beloved more than any other beloved, O fairest among women? What is your beloved more than another beloved that you so charge us? And this is a chance for Shulamith to talk about the physical delights of Solomon to her. And this would be another manual for her loving him. He says, "My beloved is white and ruddy, chief among 10,000. His head is like the finest gold. His locks are wavy and black as a raven. His eyes are like doves, gentle eyes, by the rivers of water, washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are like a bed of spices, banks of scented herbs. His lips like lilies dripping liquid myrrh. His hands are rods of gold set with pearl. His body is carved ivory inlaid with sapphires. His legs are pillars of marble set on bases of fine gold, showing his strength. His countenance is like Lebanon, his facial countenance, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet. Yes, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem." Again, you can't have the physical aspect right unless the emotional aspect is there, and the character and so forth. So Solomon is first of all a friend to her. And the daughters of Jerusalem respond, "Where is your beloved gone, O fairest among women? Where has your beloved turned aside, that we may seek him with you?" Shulamith answered, "My beloved has gone to his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed his flock in the gardens, and to gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feeds his flock among the lilies." So she misses him, and she is sorry for that she didn't respond the way he wanted her to when he showed up, but she accepts him, takes as he is, and accepts her, admits her mistake and all that. Solomon, when he sees her, he doesn't rub it in and say, "Yeah, you didn't want to see me the other night." He's ready to welcome her and accept her, and show that acceptance of her. He says to her, "Oh, my love, you're as beautiful as Tirzah, lovely as Jerusalem, awesome as an army with banners. Turn your eyes away from me, for they've overcome me." And now again, it becomes a manual for lovemaking. "Your hair is like a flock of goats going down from Gilead again. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep which have come up from the washing. Every one bears twins, and none is barren among them again." So like the marriage, the wedding night. "Like a piece of pomegranate are your temples behind your veil. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines." So Solomon ended up having 1,000 wives and concubines. I don't remember the number. Maybe it was like 300 wives and 700 concubines, something like that. But at this point, there's only 60 queens and 80 concubines, so a total of 140 instead of 1,000. So she's like number 141. Concubine is a wife, but one that doesn't inherit, but still a wife. And virgins without number, the young women of the court. He says, "My dove, my perfect one, is the only one of her mother, the favorite of the one who bore her." She actually has brothers, but she's the only girl. "The daughters saw her and called her blessed, the queens and the concubines, and they praised her. Who is she who looks forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, awesome as an army with banners?" So he may be a strong king and a powerful man, but they're equals in the physical, in the marriage realm and in the physical lovemaking realm. And he admits his total weakness in regards to her, and that she is his equal in this area. Um, Shilma says, she's happy to be accepted again. She says, "I went down to the garden of nuts to see the verdure of the valley, to see whether the vine had budded and the pomegranates had bloomed." Actually, she's giving her story of how she was a country girl, and then Solomon found her and made her a queen. She says, before I was even aware, my soul had made me as the chariots of my noble people. And then the daughters of Jerusalem say, return, return, O Shulamite, return, return, that we may look upon you. Shulamith says, what would you see in Shulamith? As it were, the dance of the Mahanaim. So the Mahanaim is translated into camps. It's near the Jabbok River. It's when Jacob saw, when Jacob came back and met his brother Esau, he talked about there being two camps, and so that's the area, and it is near Mount Gilead. So Shulamith would be from this area, and her name probably wasn't really Shulamith because that's just the feminine form of Solomon. So Solomon means is Shlomo. Here's the Hebrew. Hebrew is 3 consonants normally per word with no vowels. So all these words have the same letters, main letters, Shin, Lamed, and Mem. So S, H, L, and M. So here, Shalom means peace. Shlomo means Solomon, and Shulamith means Salome in the New Testament, or the feminine form of Solomon. So Mrs. Solomon. So Solomon, when he sees her, says, "How beautiful are." Here, when she returns, he says, "How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O princess daughter." And here is the lovemaking manual again, working from the feet up. The curves of your thighs are like jewels. And so we're to take these and use these to instruct us so we can be better lovers and therefore have a better husband and wife relationship and a better family life. And that's an important part of the church and society. So he says, the curves of your thighs are like jewels, the work of the hand of a skillful workman. Your navel is a rounded goblet. It lacks no blended beverage. So he's giving attention to her belly now. Your belly is a heap of wheat set about with lilies. Your 2 breasts, again going from the bottom up, are like 2 fawns, twins of a gazelle, which is again being gentle and petting them. Your neck is like an ivory tower, feather touching. Your neck is like an ivory tower. Now he's up to your eyes. Your eyes are like the pools in Heshbon by the gate of Bath Rabbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, which looks towards Damascus. Your head crowned you like Mount Carmel. And the hair of your head is like purple. The king, not a king, the king is held captive by your tresses. So the picture here being that his hands are trapped in her hair. Not that he can't pull them out, but wrapped in her hair, as if he was sitting in a booth in a theater with purple curtains around the booth or something. The same idea as the king is held in her tresses. How fair and how pleasant you are, O love, with your delights. This stature of yours is like a palm tree, and your breast like its clusters. He says, I'll go up to the palm tree, and I'll take hold. I said, I will go up to the palm tree, and I will take hold of its branches. Let now your breasts be like clusters of the vine. So now he's making wine with her breasts, a more forceful attention to her breasts, rather than like the deer, petting a deer. The fragrance of your breath like apples, and the roof of your mouth like the best wine. So now, before he was finding the milk under her tongue, here he's tasting the wine in the roof of her mouth with kissing. Shulamith says, picking up the imagery, by this time her love has been awakened, which is fine because they're married. And she responds that, and that wine that he's talking about goes down smoothly for my beloved, moving gently the lips of the sleepers. So after they make love, they fall asleep. She says, I, my beloved's, and his desires towards me. She feels very secure in his love and is his appreciation of her. So they're married. They just had a rough time and a making up period, and now they're going to take a trip to the countryside. And we'll see a little more about her past, because it started off with her coming to the palace. Now they're going to go to where she came from. Shulamith says, come, my beloved, and again, that's the chiasm arrangement of the song. She says, come, my beloved, let us go forth to the field. Let us lodge in the villages. Let us get up early to the vineyards. Let us see if the vine has budded, whether the grape blossoms are open and the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my love, which provides some variety. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our gates are pleasant fruits, all manner, new and old, which I have laid up for you, my beloved. She says, oh, that you were like my brother, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I should find you outside, I would kiss you, I would not be despised. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother, she who used to instruct me. So she wished that she grew up with him. She loves him more than just as a husband. As a husband, she loves him like a brother, like a friend. Um, she wishes that she could have spent all her time with him through her childhood and so forth. She said if they were brother and sister, then nobody would mind them walking around together. Not that they would be making love, as obviously brothers and sisters, it's forbidden by the Bible. But again, she enjoys more than just the lovemaking. She enjoys just being with him. And she says that I would have caused you to drink of spice wine, of the juice of my pomegranate. She says, now his left hand is under my head, and his right hand embraces me. So this is a good position for cuddling, for the left hand to be under the head and the right hand embracing, or vice versa. And she says again this morning that if you want to have a love like hers, if you want to have a good love, don't, when you're out dating and trying to make these kind of decisions, don't let physical lovemaking enter into it at all, because that'll just distort judgment. And once you start getting close, then you'll get into something you can't get out of, and you won't find the best that you could for your life. So the best thing is just to avoid awakening physical love until the time is right, until you've made the decision based on other things. So don't stir up or awaken love until it pleases. This is Shulamith's charge to us, as well as to the daughters of Jerusalem. And finally, just like the song started with an introduction, it ends with a conclusion. So Act 5, Scene 1, talks about the safety in her marriage. Shulamith says, referring to herself, who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning upon her beloved? She's thinking how she got to be to that point in her life. Solomon says, I awakened you under the apple tree. There your mother brought you forth. There she who bore you brought you forth. So, like she had said, he was an apple tree to her that provided provision and protection. He says that he awakened her love in a proper place, under the shelter of an apple tree, under the provision, a time of provision for her as a husband. The same kind of provision and safety that her parents had for her, like her mother and father. Actually, it seems like her father had died. There's not talk about her father. It's all about her mother. Maybe he died when she was born, or when she was very young, even before she was born, possibly. So Shulamith gives us a warning about love. Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is as strong as death, jealousy as cruel as the grave, grave meaning Sheol or hell here. Its flames are flames of fire, a most vehement flame, like literally the flame of Hashem, so of God. So twice God is mentioned here. Once his flame, and once was back when he said, drink deeply and sleep peacefully, lovers, at the center of the book. She says, many waters cannot quench love, nor can floods drown it. So that's a good thing. If a man would give for love all the wealth of his house, it would be utterly despised. That can be a bad thing, where if somebody were to, if they were to have an affair, or there was another third party enter into that, either with Shulamith, of course with Solomon, he had many wives anyway, um, but he had to marry the women. He wasn't allowed to, he wasn't free to just make love to women and not marry them. What if another man were to enter the picture here, and then tell Solomon, I'll give you, I'm sorry what happened, I'll give you all the wealth of my house, it would be utterly despised. So jealousy is can tear a marriage apart, and rightfully so. It's not saying that it's wrong to be jealous, it's saying that it's appropriate to be jealous, and therefore avoid the problem that would cause jealousy to arise. So for them to be faithful to each other, her to be faithful to him only, and him to be faithful to only the women that he's married, and therefore there's not room for another man to come into the picture, because it won't be able to be just, even if Solomon were to be able to forgive her, it would cause all kinds of emotional problems and difficulties. So the best thing is just to avoid that problem. That's the warning. Scene 2 is her life up until Solomon. Shulamith's brothers speak here. They say, we have a little sister. She has no breasts. This is back before she had breasts, when she was younger. When she was a child, a young woman, young teenager, whatever age that would be. What shall we do for our sister in the day when she is spoken for? And they say, if she's a wall, we will build upon her a battlement of silver. If she's a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. So rather than a battlement of silver, I think it means like a door of silver. So if she's a wall, they'll make a way for her. If she's, resists everybody, they'll help make a way for her to meet somebody. But if she's a door, then they'll help protect her from the guys that come calling. So based on how she responds, they'll do their strategy to help her not be, too open and neither too closed, so that she'll find somebody, but she won't be loose and ruin her chances of finding a good husband and ending up with someone that she regrets. She answers, I'm not a door. She says, I'm a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then I became, in his eyes, as one who found peace. Uh, she waited and she found the right man, and she found peace from a man with character like Solomon. That was the main thing that gave her the peace. It wasn't his looks, it was his character. Now, how did they meet? Solomon had a vineyard at Baal Hamon. He leased the vineyard to keepers. Everyone was to bring for its fruit 1,000 silver coins. So the keepers was Shulamith's brothers, and she's the one that had to take care of it. They had other things to do, and she says to Solomon, my own vineyard is before me. You, O Solomon, may have 1,000, and those who tend its fruit 200. That's the brothers that watched out for her. she wants Solomon to appreciate that and to take care of them, just like to some extent, just like he's taking care of her, because they both owe the brothers a lot. And finally, the conclusion. Solomon, you who dwell in the gardens, the companions, listen for your voice. Let me hear it. She wants to be with him. I'm sorry, that was Solomon saying, you who dwell in the gardens, the companions, listen for your voice. Let me hear it. So he wants to be with her. Shulamith says, make haste, my beloved, and be like a gazelle, or like a young stag on the mountains of spices. She's the third time, at least, we've seen the image of him as a gazelle, leaping and rejoicing. And in this mountain of spices, again, referring to the physical lovemaking, like the hill of spices. Here's a map of show you where Gilead is, and Gilead is number 13 here, which is right here, and this is the Brook Jabbok, and where the camp of the Menahem is. So this is the area she's from, and then Jerusalem is down here. This is where she's living now with Solomon, and that's our study of the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. It sounds beautiful in Hebrew. It goes Shir Hashirim Asher Li Shlomo, or you could sing it Shir Hashirim Asher Li Shlomo